Take the red pill. You stay in Wonderland. And I show you how deep the rabbit hole goes.
Is this the real life? Is this just fantasy? I'm a human being! God damn it! My life has value! It's time to ask yourself what you believe.
Mass murder, torture, perjury, embezzlement, fraud, deception, treason. These are just a few of your many crimes against humanity. You will not win this war, for you are fighting the very essence of humanity.
The main building, also known as the Kirkbride Building, was completed in 1876. Until 1943, when the Pentagon was completed, this was the largest structure in the United States under one roof.
Well, you never wanted to go to a haunted house before?
I think I've been in one.
Really? Haunted? You ever seen a shadow, like a shadow man? You ever been attacked by a shadow?
It could have been just a shadow.
Man's body pulling my leg out of the bed.
That sounds like John was getting a little kinky. You don't believe in ghosts? Only one way to find out.
No, we shouldn't be here. We're disturbing the dead.
There's something moving. I don't know what the hell it is, though.
Hi, welcome to Truth or Talk. I'm April Virstyne.
And I'm Virstyne Henry.
Please visit our website at truthertease.com, our store at shop.truthertease.com, where we have the Conspiracy Realist t-shirt available. If you buy 3 t-shirts, you get a free copy of the official stories by author Liam Sheff. At the top of the show, we just played the audio clip of the trailer from Sean Stone's latest film, his directorial debut, Greystone Park, which is his horror film, and it's Halloween. So we're going to be talking to him today, which is exciting. We're going to be talking to Sean Stone, and that was just a short clip. So hey, Virstyne, how you doing?
Oh, I'm scared. It's creepy. It's Halloween's coming up.
Well, yeah, this is our Halloween show, and it's, you know, you start to think about the occult or like the spirit world on Halloween, and I don't know. It's sometimes it's a commercial thing, you know, kids out buying costumes and selling candy, but there is some kind of truth to that. There's some sort of
energy. Energy that's just like a. Yeah. I've had friends that are psychic, and they talk about Halloween being a time where the veil between other dimensions are very thin. So it's very easy to come in contact with spirits if you believe in that sort of thing. And yeah, it's very interesting.
Well, isn't there some the theory behind it is that the Day of the Dead was November 1st, and so Halloween people would kind of dress in costume because the dead would rise, and so as the dead traveled through the earth, if you were in costume, they couldn't recognize you, so they couldn't steal your soul. They would think that you were just one of them. So it was a way to sort of trick them.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Yeah, so that they couldn't. Well, that's the history of the Day of the Dead, but the Day of the Dead is November 1st. So that's, I think, the day and Halloween. So this was something you would do at like midnight. You would have when the spirits would come about. So Halloween and the Day of the Dead, I think, have connected history. But from what I understand, too, different cultures have different interpretations or different histories Halloween.
Yeah, because I know. Compared to when I was living in Taiwan, Halloween's a Western thing, definitely. They have their own, beliefs about spirits and stuff. They still believe in spirits and things like that. But as far as the day of Halloween, they don't recognize it really as a day, a special day of any kind. So.
Yeah, no, and I think it is a Western thing, because I think that but the Day of the Dead is like Latin America, like that culture.
Dia de los Muertos.
Yeah, that's their belief in that you have to disguise yourself as one of the spirits, a ghost or a goblin or a monster, and that way they will pass you by and they won't take your soul. And yeah, it's just that's just
Tell me, brother, what's going on? Sorry, I'll just go to the next soul, right?
Right.
Take up your mask. You're like, oof, that was close. Kind of like that.
Yeah, exactly. So, I don't know. And then I guess the Celtics also had a version of it that had something to do with the pagans and the stockpile for winter. I think that's what a lot of these holidays towards the end of the year have to do with, is basically, traditionally there was something to do with, like, you had to bulk up because your food, we didn't have all these technological ways to keep it preserved, throughout the winter. I mean, you can get fresh food year-round now, but back then you couldn't. You had to get, you would sort of, in the summer and in the early fall, before it got too cold, you do all your hunting and gathering and everything, and then you would kill all your food and eat it right away, so they would have kind of like a ritual to eat it and to fatten up to get you through the winter. I think that's what that's all about. I remember.
That's interesting. I'm gonna have to look that up in a little more detail, because I can take that to my kids. That'd be really interesting. We were talking about Halloween the other day.
Yeah, and I think that's what the Celtic kind of it was a festival, and it had, I forget the exact details on it, but it was a festival, and it happened at the end of October, because that's when, pretty much everything was going to die by then. So anything that hadn't already sort of sprouted, any of your crops that hadn't already come up, that weren't going to, until, those were gone. You're going to have to just basically get fat so they keep you, warm in the winter. And then I think that's true of Christmas too. Like, there's some truth about that was sort of the festival of lights, and people would just kind of party, get drunk, and wear costumes, and get, gorge out, glutton out, which we still do. We get fresh food year-round. Out on these holidays.
Americans that gorge out a lot.
Yeah, we find any excuse,
Yeah, I think.
Football? Oh, let's eat,
like it's Sunday. It's Tuesday.
Yeah, it's Tuesday night. Kids eat free on Tuesday night. But let's go!
Yeah.
We love to eat in this country. We have so much access. We're
we're very blessed, actually, compared to other parts of the world too, in that regard, as far as just the abundance that we have in so many ways.
It's true. I had this one time. I think there was this conversation going on Facebook, and we were kind of talking about the GMO thing and the organic versus non-organic. And this one guy from a friend, I guess he was a Facebook friend. I haven't seen him around for a while, but he says he makes a comment like, yeah, well, in my country, we almost never have fresh fruit. Like,
wow.
Not even organic, they don't even have it.
Jesus, well.
Yeah, because it just doesn't, it's just they don't have it in his country. And so I think he was from Morocco. So,
wow.
We're spoiled. We don't know what that's like, really.
Yeah, we don't even, I have no idea. It's just,
right.
So do you believe in the spirit world? Have you had any what do you call it? Any experiences or
experiences with the other realm?
Yes.
I do believe in it, actually, because I think that I do think I've had experiences with it. I think there's everybody has probably had some sort of experience, whether they choose to acknowledge it or not. Like, I've had dreams about the dead, and I think sometimes.
And did they die? Did they die in real life?
Yeah. And so I think that sometimes dreams are sort of portals to the other dimension.
I believe that.
Yeah, and so I would have a dream about my grandfather. I saw my grandfather die when I was 14, and I remember seeing that his spirit left his body. I'm completely serious. It was. I've never. This is one and only time I've ever actually watched someone as they died, and because he was sick on his bed, and we all kind of came in because that was it. We knew that was the end. And his spirit really left his body, and you could see it. You could see it sort of drain, even though his body was still there. You could see that the soul was gone. The soul was somewhere else. And I would have dreams about my grandfather throughout times of my life. This particular grandfather, and to this day, I feel when he's around. I just know it. You know what I mean?
It's weird. I can smell my grandmother. This is weird. I can smell my grandmother when she comes around, because you see people have different, they can access the world through different senses. Mine is like my smell.
Right.
I can smell. It's so weird. I can smell people sometimes. Instead of seeing, you can either feel. I feel things too. I don't really see with my eyes, but I can feel like presences, and then I can like smell things.
Yeah, I know. I feel I see things, certain things, and this is going to sound really hokey dokey, but I feel that there are spirits around me, spirits that I know. So these are people that have been in my life and are now in the spirit world. They've passed on to the other dimension. And this is going to sound really, really corny, but when I see butterflies, I feel their presence. I don't know why.
Well, certain families make agreements, I think. It's something I want to find out more, because my mom's side, they stem from Haiti, and they're really into like magic. They have a history of people like zombification and just magic, and not all of it is, and in the media it's portrayed as black magic. I don't think all of it is black magic or dark magic, but I think that my family has made some kind of agreement with birds, and I guess I could go into it. I'm like scared that they might get mad, because my mom's side is very, very secretive. I'm always asking questions about certain things, and every once in a while somebody would say something, but my mom, they don't want to like talk about it. But we have this agreement with like birds where you notice birds don't come into the house, right? Really, if you leave the door open, they don't come into the house. But this has happened at least 4 times, and it's always like happened where if a bird comes into the house, somebody in the family is going to die within the week. And this has happened 4 times. But I think that's my family's particular agreement. I don't think if a bird comes in your house, then that's necessarily going to be true with you, because maybe you didn't make that agreement, or that your family doesn't have anything to do with that. So my mom's side in particular, I think they've made some kind of agreement with birds, but I actually would like to do more research on agreements and totems and things like that, because I don't really know that much about it, but I don't like do that, and we don't do laundry on New Year's Eve. And my mom's not really superstitious, but it's always just like that too, like New Year's Eve, because they believe if you do laundry, you're going to wash somebody out of your life. Now, I don't believe, I don't know, and that never has failed either, because there are a couple people that have attempted that. They're like, oh, I don't believe it. Oh, that's silly, Yeah. And I didn't even know about this until I got grown, because one day I was going to do laundry on New Year's Eve, and I'm literally, and I'm very extroverted, and my mom is very like just calm and mellow, and I'm walking out with the laundry basket, and my mom's like running after me, screaming. She's like, "No! Oh my God!" I'm like, "What?" I'm like, "What? Did I like forget the quarters? Like, what's going on?" Like, and she's like,
right.
And I was like, why did I do something wrong? She's like, just don't do it. Like, don't do the laundry? I'm like, I have no clean socks or underwear. Like, what do you, she goes, it's too bad. Just don't do it. Just wait a day. Just wait till tomorrow. And she even tell me at that time, No, she was like, oh, well, if you do it, you might wash somebody out of your life. You're going to wash somebody out of your life. And I was just like, okay, well, because she just seemed so, like, disturbed and threatened by it, and that's not really like my mom. That's not like her personality. So I was just like, okay, whatever, I'll wait a day. Like, I just thought it was so weird. And my mom doesn't really have any other superstitions, other than that. And the same year, my cousin did laundry on that day, and her mom died, like, in the week.
Oh, my gosh.
And the thing what's funny about that is, like, she did the laundry, and then we were up in Rosamond at my uncle's house. 2 o'clock in the morning, a sparrow flies in. What birds are up and around at 2 o'clock in the morning?
Right, that's true. You don't ever have...
and just flies in, and then, like, leaves. And everybody was like, oh, snap. And I was like, well, I didn't even know what was going on because, like I said, my family didn't really talk about this stuff until then. And then every once in a while, I'll find out some kind of weird superstition or something on my mom's side. Nobody just talks about it. It just happens to come up.
Yeah.
And I'm just like, why don't you tell me that like, it's so weird. So and then, I've heard that their families have agreements about things, and I would like to know more about that, maybe with numbers or birds or symbols or something like that,
We have no agreement whatsoever with my family. So why I associate butterflies,
you might not know. Maybe you do far back, you know what I mean?
Yeah, no,
like your parents might not even know. In your bloodline, there might be some kind of,
right.
Yeah,
I don't even know if I told my family about this, this experience. And I wonder because the first person I ever saw die was my grandfather, or the first person I really was close to that I knew who died was him. And when I used to go, somehow I associate butterflies with him and my grandmother because in the summer when I was a kid, we used to go stay with them. They had a lot of butterflies in their front yard. I mean, just all these really gorgeous, beautiful butterflies, like massive, huge ones. And I don't remember how old I was. I want to say I was about 10 years old, maybe 10 or 11. I would stand outside, and I would for hours. I don't know how I did this, but I would for hours put my my arm up in a perch in the hopes that a butterfly would land on my finger. And it happened several times. A lot of them did. And even the big, like there was this big massive yellow one that had these like blue spots. It was gorgeous. And so somehow maybe I just associate that, the butterflies with that experience that I had at their house. So when I see those, it makes me think of him because that was my first person that I cared about who died, first of all. And secondly, my first sort of experience with knowing that someone from the other realm was talking to me, because I felt him talk to me on several different occasions after he died. And I had other experiences similar, like when my other grandfather died, I was at home, and at the time my husband was working at Starbucks. He had to be there at like 4 or 5 in the morning, so he would go really, really early in the morning. And I had this experience where I was lying in bed and I was sleeping, and I was sleeping in the bed with my son Avery, and I heard the phone ring, but then it rang like 2 times and then hung up. And then I felt someone come in the apartment and kiss me on the cheek, and I sort of woke up because I thought, well, maybe it's Aaron, maybe he came, maybe it's time for him to come back to work. And I looked, and it was only like 2 in the morning, or no, it was after he had already gone to work, so he wasn't there. So then the next day, I found out that my grandfather had died, and I asked my mom, I said, did you call me at 2 in the morning? She said, no, I didn't call you. And I was like, oh, well, the phone rang. Are you sure? And then I told my dad about it, and he was like, are you sure she didn't call you? I said, she swears she didn't call me. But I got this phone call at, this early wee hours of the morning, and I felt the presence of somebody come into the room and kiss me on the cheek, and I thought it was my husband, but it wasn't.
Oh, my God.
So I think that I have these experiences. I've had others, too. I've had people that I've known, not been as close to, who have come to me in dreams and talk to me, and so I don't know. Do I believe? Yeah, I do. I don't know. I think they come in different forms, and just whatever dimension, or I don't know, but I certainly believe it, and I don't think it's always a scary thing. But no,
yeah,
but it can be. So anyway, but we are are going to take a short break, and when we get back, we're going to be talking to Sean Stone, filmmaker. He's done he did a horror film called Greystone, and we want to ask him about that because there are a lot of spooky things about the history of that place. Greystone is an insane asylum, or was an insane asylum. It was shut down, and he did a film there documenting things that were going on, the supernatural things that were taking place at this gutted out insane asylum. So I guess it's just still there, just kind of hanging out. Like there aren't any patients there anymore, but they haven't like torn it down.
It's huge too. It's like a castle, like a
right. And then it sounds very
get out of The Shining.
It does remind me of The Shining because it's sort of like a creepy kind of possessed place that has just, do you remember, that's a scary movie. That's one to watch for Halloween.
I've seen pieces of it. I'm not like a huge horror movie person, but except I like vampire films, but they're very erotic. I think the eroticism and romanticism of vampire movies can get me over the horror. Maybe werewolves too. I can deal with that. But as far as like demons and stuff, because I have other stuff I don't want to talk about on the show. I've had other experiences with stuff that just kind of like creep me out. But with demons and stuff like that. But I just need to get over it. I need to find out more about it. I think once I have more knowledge about it, then I won't be as scared.
Yeah. Well, we can talk about that hopefully either with Sean or later on when we close out the show. Maybe we can get more into that because we have got to go take a short break, and I'm really excited. I hope last time you had Sean Stone on, I couldn't make it. I couldn't be here, so I'm excited.
Were you playing cornhole in the park?
I was playing cornhole in the park. I decided to just do that instead. No, I had this appointment with Avery, and I couldn't get out of it.
Okay.
Something that I couldn't reschedule. So anyway, but that is then, and this is now, and now I get to talk to him, so I'm excited to do that. And he's a really smart guy, very knowledgeable about a lot of things. So, and then he's going to have the new show, which we've been talking about, and I've been wanting conspiracy theory to come back.
You got me hooked on that. You just
and I think it goes to show like what kind of weight Jesse Ventura holds that show gets to air with all the things that they talk about. Like that guy, he has a lot of power. I think
he's a well-liked person. You can see he's genuine. Jesse Ventura is very
right.
I've never met him. I don't know him, but you get certain interpretations of people just by TV, and that's one. He's just like all around, just like stand-up guy. Just seems like. Very respectful to people, but he's also very, very well educated. But he doesn't look down on people. So
I wonder if he's going to fly again. Remember, he wasn't going to fly because the TSA had harassed him. He's got metal in his body. He was a Navy SEAL, and he was also a wrestler. So I'm sure he's had a lot of injuries. Over the years, and so he has now like some metal plate in his hip or something like that. And so every time he goes through, he sets up the metal detectors, and then they have to like pat him down. So he got tired of that nonsense. Which is like, by the way, the guy was a governor. Okay, he's been and he's a Navy SEAL. Like seriously, do you really need to pat him down? That man should be able to carry a gun on the plane. Yeah. Okay, he should be able to because he will defend you. Okay, if you believe in Al Qaeda is popping out. You want just even on your plane, the gun,
they make it seem like that, like they're ghosts, and they're just gonna pop out like.
If it's they're gonna they're gonna just pop out of like the drink tray they come on, and they're like, oh, would you like your Diet Coke? And then it popped out in Al Qaeda,
Yeah.
From underneath the tray. Come on, whatever. But anyway, if you are afraid of that, you want Jesse Ventura on board with a gun, because he, knows what he's doing. He's a former Navy SEAL, so whatever. But anyway, I'm not. What are you afraid? You think why are we afraid of him? Seriously. Anyway, that's just ridiculous. He's a defender of the people of this country, not of someone who's going. So whatever.
Yeah, ridiculousness going on in this country.
That's a whole nother truth to talk.
I know, a whole another one.
We'll do a show one of these days, but that's a whole other truth to talk.
I know. right,
Anyway,
so
we're going on too long. What's that?
So, yeah, we're going to take a break.
Yes, we're going to take a break. We're going on too long. And we will be right back. And once we get back, we'll be talking for this Halloween episode. We'll be talking to Sean Stone. Can't wait. All right.
Yes, hello. I wanted to say that I love the conspiracy realist t-shirts that you can get only online at ship.truthortease.com. I knew a conspiracy when I saw it. America is run by the CIA. Yes, the CIA. That's why you have to wear a conspiracy realist t-shirt all the time to let people know that you are not stupid. Go to ship.truthortease.com. Ship.truthortease.com. Ship. Like to go shopping when you buy things at the grocery store. truthortease.com.
Hi, and welcome back. Sean Stone has grown up in the film world, having acted since childhood in his father Oliver Stone's films, including Natural Born Killers, Wall Street, and Savages. Stone majored in American history, studying at Oxford and Princeton University. He graduated from Princeton in 2006 after completing his thesis on the New World Order. By then, he was fortunate enough to have worked with such organizations as Save the Children in Somalia and the gang prevention program Unity One in Los Angeles. Young Stone began his filmmaking career by shooting additional footage for his father's 2002 documentaries on Fidel Castro, Comandante Looking for Fidel, and the Israel-Palestine conflict, Persona Non Grata. Stone will soon be seen on the third season of the popular TV series Conspiracy Theory with Jesse Ventura. He joins Ventura's team this year as a co-host, investigating claims of conspiracy across the United States. His feature film directorial debut, Greystone, is now available on demand, DVD, and iTunes. Please welcome to the show, Sean Stone. Hey, Sean, what's going on?
Hey, Sean.
Thanks, guys. Thanks for having me on.
Yeah, thanks for coming back.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, you did Greystone, and I'm just curious. Would you tell us a little about the history of Greystone Manor? And
Greystone Manor is not. No, Greystone Manor is in L.A. It's a nightclub.
Oh, wait. Oh.
Actually, no. Greystone Manor. It's a nightclub, but originally there was a Greystone Manor, I guess, which is like supposedly haunted in L.A. But I don't know the history of that one.
So I'm sorry. Is it Greystone? There's one in New Jersey, right? That's that you basically.
Yeah, Greystone Park. Mental hospital. It's it's built in the post-Civil War era as part of that boom of construction, of mental hospitals or communities basically for the mentally unfit, and then you had it was part of what was called the Kirkbride construction. Kirkbride was a guy who built a whole bunch of these hospitals up and down the northeast and the eastern seaboard, and he designed it in a very particular way, which actually it looks like a step pyramid laid on its side, and that was said to be done so that there could be more sunlight or whatnot that would come into the patient's rooms. But I'm always suspicious of it because again, it looks like a step pyramid, and step pyramids were historically utilized for ritual purposes of worship, sacrifice, and whatnot. So there's something kind of creepy about the place itself, and historically it had been utilized for MK Ultra type of experimental work like lobotomies, electroshock, and whatnot. So the place was at one point housing about 10,000 people, and ran into issues of overpopulation, and a lot of people died there. They found mass graves, about 3,000 people actually buried in almost like a mass grave at the location, which is pretty spooky. And then ultimately it shut down a few years ago, and now it just lays abandoned, but the lights are still on, and it's still like a Twilight Zone kind of experience when you go inside.
Wow. So what was your experience? I've heard on various interviews that you and your friend broke in and you went. So could you tell us a little bit more about your experience, what that was like when you went in?
I mean, I've been there so many times. There's not one experience. You can't really boil it down to one experience. It's it's a whole slew of experiences with the paranormal. And, I would just say that the location itself is almost like a portal. It's transformative. You really go in and you don't know what to expect. At one time, Alex, my friend Alex Wraith, who's my co-writer and co-star in Greystone, the film, who's the one that actually took me there in the first place. He's from Jersey, and he's had a long history of encounters with the supernatural and whatnot, because I think he's a bit psychic. He's a bit aware of that realm and able to see it. But at the same time, you sometimes wonder if someone who says that they're seeing something is not also crazy.
Yeah.
That's, terminology for someone who's seeing things. Like at one level they're shamanic or a witch or psychic, but at another level they could be nuts. So how do you differentiate? How do you distinguish it? And so when he would see things inside the first few times we went there, oftentimes I didn't see it myself. So I really doubted whether or not he was telling the truth, or he was being possessed by something, or if he was playing with us and doing a prank. So the film is very much designed with that quality of doubting your own sanity, doubting the sanity of your friends, doubting your own sanity by the end, a bit like The Shining. And the proof ultimately, is there proof in the film that there's paranormal existence? I think that the film shows it, and I think the film shows that there is something else that surrounds you when you enter that place. There's an energy to it. There's shadow people and entities from other dimensions that come into play, but they do work within the context of our own psyche and our own fears. So it's not an objective experience; it's a very subjective reality, and that's what we posit throughout the story: is how similar demon possession and paranormal phenomenon are to madness.
Was there anything that you experienced in Greystone that you weren't able to portray in the film? Just like the energy, like how was the energy and just being there? Could you describe what it was like when you were exploring? I think ultimately, you surprisingly enough, a lot of the energy is conveyed through the film, and that's that was done because we shot real locations, real haunted locations and real asylums, and we did actually, in the end, we did have some experiences on camera in the film. Everything from Alex getting possessed on camera to Antonella and Alex running from a shadow that they saw that kind of overwhelmed them, and then Antonella starts crying. There's moments like this in the film, and so I think that there really is an energy that pervades the film, and when you watch it, there's an anxiety to the experience of watching it, because it's claustrophobic, it's dark, and that's why some people will say, some people who are very logical about things may not get it, but I think if you're at all sensitive, you do feel the energy, and that it does kind of overwhelm you, and by the end, you can kind of feel almost possessed or nerve-wracked, and just you feel the disturbance of what happened there, and how that energy still translates to this present day in that location. So we did our best to try to convey that energy through the film itself, because there's nothing else there's no way I can explain it to you. Some people have broken in, they tell you, I didn't feel anything. I just think it's a creepy place with a bunch of turned over furniture and records left behind, and some, occasionally some blood on the walls or things like this, decaying walls. But there's nothing really terrifying about it. And then, for those who are more sensitive, they go in there and it's like, this place is horrifying and chilling, and I couldn't last an hour inside, or they'll say, I couldn't even go inside. I know Alex took some people, to try to explore with them before he met me, and they would not enter the building, because it's frightening. When you're looking at it, it's like the Psycho House or something, you have this ominous feeling upon looking at it, that there's something bad went down there. I know one kid who Alex took was autistic. He saw hundreds of children in the windows looking out at him, and he was freaking out, crying like he didn't want to go inside, and inside he was all over the place. So I think it has to do with your sensitivity level, to be honest. So was this your first paranormal experience? Well,
it's not the first. It's not the last. It's not that. It's it's not that it's one experience. It's an opening of your sensitivity and your psychic abilities to that realm. So, in the first break into Greystone, that was my first exploration of the paranormal, and at the same time, a lot of the things that you hear or see, you're not sure it's paranormal. I mean, if you hear footsteps inside that building, my instinct was that there were Satanists inside, or there was someone, a transient, or someone was in there, not necessarily, not necessarily an entity or a non-human. I thought it could be very well human, but as through the process of a 2-year time of making the film, then yes, you start to have more and more what are called paranormal experiences, things like shadows appearing in your room and the shadow attack phenomenon, or, things flying at me from out of nowhere when I'll be in the locations, like scouting them or exploring them. Those are more supernatural. Those are more paranormal. But then you get things like phone calls, when you get phone calls from 666 numbers, and you can tell they're doing a ritual on the line, like it's sorcerers who are doing the ritual. It makes you wonder, well, are the sorcerers that are calling you, are they working for the NSA and the CIA? Are they just doing this as a test, or like to mess with me? Or is there, or are they actually conversing with the paranormal or the supernatural realm and trying to contact them? So, there's all these, it's very difficult to find, there's no boundaries. I mean, we live we live in a universe that's beyond 3 dimensions. And I think any real scientist will tell you. And so once you get into that notion that the existence itself is beyond 3 dimensions, and consciousness itself is not bounded by 3 dimensions, and that's why we have these issues of synchronicity and telekinesis and psychic abilities and whatnot. So now we're starting to tap into something that is fundamentally paranormal or supernatural, but it's also there is a root in being scientific if you can start to understand that that's just the nature of the reality we exist in, we inhabit.
And so, Sean, you were really affected by what your experiences were, but since you've been back home and you're back into your normal life, I mean, have some of these things continued that you experienced at Greystone? Do you feel that you're more aware of it now?
I think you become more aware of it for sure. Mm-hmm. And sometimes it's like last night, for example. Last night, I could just tell there was a certain energy in the air. It was like almost like a astrological alignment taking place. And you can just feel like there's spirits around. There's negative energies that are flowing through. So at all times in life, every day there's a certain alignment of factors and forces in our lives. And I think the more sensitive you become to it, the more able you are to then act appropriately and know which course to follow. Mm-hmm. But yes, I still get phone calls from sorcerers and things claiming to represent the paranormal realm. Like the underworld, for example, claiming to represent Azazel or other, notorious jinns, Baal. I get phone calls like this, but I think there is something paranormal to it. But at the same time, I also think that there is an operational NSA or like I said, government intelligence factor.
Interesting, yeah.
That would freak me out. Like I call it 666. So
but don't forget that historically, the NSA, CIA have a cult-like factor to them, and there are factions that do these occult rituals. There's like an occult bureau, the same way the British intelligence always had an occult bureau. That was that's whole purpose was to study and work with the occult. So it's not far-fetched to understand that these agencies are also practicing it, because if you think about anyone who might have psychic abilities, or if you know any psychics, for example, right? And if they're at all worth their weight, then you would consult this person. Now imagine you're running an intelligence operation, or you're party to government function, the United States. Of course, you're going to be working on remote viewing and psychic abilities. I mean, this is known, it's documented. In the 80s, the Psy Warriors were a major element within the military, and that was shown in the film that Clooney did called Men Who Stare at Goats.
Oh, yeah. That was a good, kind of funny.
Those guys, and they came back around big time in the prominence in the 2000s. So though people can mock it and spoof it and say like these guys are nuts, this whole concept of Psy warriors and super soldiers has always been, of course, of great interest to the government. And so, of course, they're going to be involved in it. And they're, of course, going to be studying it. Anyone, if you have Aleister Crowley talking about, occult worship and connection to various entities, for example, and how he communicated to them, then why wouldn't, and he's working with British intelligence. What makes you think the American intelligence and the British intelligence are not still doing these same things?
Yeah, that's a good point. And one thing in your film I noticed was that there was a lot of Illuminati symbolism across on the walls or things like that. There were, like the Egyptian eye, all-seeing eye, and things like that. Yeah. And so that was in there? That was actually in the manor? You guys just filmed that?
That was there, yeah. The all-seeing eye we did come across. It was one of the occult arts and crafts, I guess you'd call it.
That's weird.
It was inside the place. The death symbol. I mean, as the Medusa was kind of given to us, the Medusa concept, which is really that we entered a labyrinth. We went through the first level of initiation by going to this place. And the first level of initiation, if you go back even historically, what the Knights Templar do, for example, when they would bury themselves and have to face demons. So there's this whole concept of our initiation that we were going through our spiritual initiation while we went through Greystone, and I think that's what we tried to represent in the film without being heavy-handed about it. And for those who don't know, they'll never recognize it. But for those who are more intuitive and more awake, they'll get that concept.
Yeah, and I was thinking that was it who was the folk singer that was at Greystone? Was it Woody Guthrie or Peter?
Yeah, it was Woody Guthrie.
Right, and so I mean, do you know the history on that? Like, what was he doing there? Why did they think he was crazy, or did they?
I'm not sure if he institutionalized himself.
Ah.
Or it could always be a popular thing for people who just reject society. There's always been a fascination, especially from from artistic people, right, with madness.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
You can oftentimes, as an artist, you feel mad and you feel outside of society.
Mm.
And so I think Guthrie actually may have institutionalized himself. But the creepy thing about Guthrie was that when we went there the first time, we're walking down this corridor, and all of a sudden there's a Woody Guthrie guitar sitting there, and it says, "This machine kills fascists."
Oh, I would have totally taken that.
Creepy,
Well, that's creepy, but that's kind of awesome. That's pretty, he was a sort of rebellious in that way, and kind of against the establishment. It's kind of like the film, the book originally, One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest. You had this. It's a fine line between, are they crazy, or is this just the counterculture? The artists or the people who the mainstream don't quite understand. So that was very interesting. But since this is Halloween, I want to ask you something scary. What about the legend of Crazy Kate? Can you tell us a little bit about that?
Yeah, well, that was my father's story. When my father used to tell me this as a kid when I was growing up, he had basically two ghost stories that he would resort to. And Crazy Kate was my favorite because I never could tell if he was lying or not. I really didn't know if he had made this story up or if he really had seen her in the woods, And to this day, I'm not sure. I think that's the fundamental curiosity that drives my character in the film, is this notion of, are ghosts real? My father says, no, they're part of your mind. They're an extension of what your mind creates, your imagination and whatnot. And my character is like, okay, well, let's find out for ourselves.
Well, isn't that what Alex said? He described Crazy Kate when he was talking about the apparition that he saw. Wasn't that who he described? Like she had green eyes, or right? Was that her? Or what he said that he
did
saw?
He think it? Yeah.
Yeah, did he think that he saw that?
Alex at that point didn't know the Crazy Kate story.
Okay.
It's very ironic that it ultimately worked out because what he saw was this Medusa-like creature with the hair, the crazy hair, her tongue sticking out, a classic icon of a Gorgon, right?
Yeah.
And reptilian almost in skin and tail and all this kind of stuff. And so at that juncture, I made the connection between the crazy Kate, being an archetype of that, you see. So it plays upon this idea that Medusa, crazy Kate, they're archetypes of the old lady that really freaks out a young man in the context of why is it that she has this power to turn men to stone? Because in a sense, it's like she represents the land of the dead. She represents the underworld, where once you ventured and you've looked at her, part of you is frozen and left behind there, and never, basically you have to work to get yourself free, right? So that's what I wanted to show in the story, was this representation that once they had seen her, they left a part of themselves behind. And ideally, I would make a sequel and show you how there can be an escape from this realm. But the first film was really just about the young kids deepening loss of themselves into this realm of shadows and fears.
So do you think these entities, they feed on your fears and like your memories and just manipulate them against you?
Well, that's always been the hypothesis. I personally believe that, yes, for the most part, the shadow entities, the negative entities, the spirits, the demons. I mean, look, there's a good argument to be made that all these creatures are really just extensions of our own mind, our own head. And that's why, but because of the quantum physics concept, that there is no universe, there is no physical reality. Everything that we are perceiving, or you could say vice versa, it's all physical reality, including your mind and your thoughts. But the point is that everything that we're perceiving and acting upon is an extension of our belief system. It's an extension of our belief that this physical reality that we're inhabiting exists, right? That we ourselves exist. So, in that context, whatever we say that plagues us, whether they're emotional moods, and whether those moods are indeed affected by spirits or entities from another realm, they are all part and parcel of the same mind, which we are a drop of. And I believe all minds are connected. I believe in that idea that the collective unconscious, that we're all humans are basically extensions of this collective unconscious. We're all connected by it. Truly, there is only one mind. That is the mind of the Creator, which we are then a part of, and maybe we're a hologram of the Creator because we have that same potential to create and the potential to find if we look inside of ourselves, we can find tremendous amount of emotional diversity, light to dark, and all these colors in between. But at the end of the day, it's about us and how do we choose to empower our thoughts. We give charge to our thoughts. As we know, like we envision ourselves doing something in our life, then that definite goal can be realized in time. But if we lose ourselves to distractions, if we lose ourselves to fear, to idle chatter and monkey mind and whatnot, and then basically we're lost in the realm of samsara. Like in Buddhism, we talk about samsara and karma, and Maya, illusion, right? So these archetypes of demons and whatnot. They're there in every culture. They're there in Buddhism. They're there in Hinduism. They're there in the Japanese and Chinese Eastern traditions. They're there in Babylonian and pre-Islamic cultures as well as Islam. They're there in Egypt. They're there in Christianity, right? Because they are real. But insofar as how does your mind approach them? Do you become like slay the demon? Do you want to slay the Gorgon, Medusa, or are you going to be a coward and be turned to stone and left behind by her?
Interesting.
Yeah, that's really. Did you, Sean, in your investigation of Greystone, is that what sort of led you to start researching the jinn?
Yes. Well, I found out about the jinn exactly during the process of making the movie, because I talked to Alex about it, and Alex grows up in the Middle Eastern culture. I mean, he's Lebanese and has spent a lot of time there as a kid, so he knew about the jinn. And when he told, essentially he started using that word, and I'd never heard the word before. And so once, the first time I heard about it was, a friend of his was a Persian kid with some money behind him, and we were asking him to invest in the film, in Greystone, and he said, it sounds like a great project, but I'm scared that the jinns are going to haunt my family.
Shit.
So, and frankly, he might have been right. I think there was a lot of interference from that side.
Oh my goodness.
So I think there was a lot of interference. Yes.
Well, could you go into a little bit more detail about what jinn are for our audience?
Well, jinns are what we call genies in the West, but essentially in Quran, in Quran it says that God created three entities. God created man, angels, and jinns. And jinns are essentially that which almost like human, but they're various entities, from many different shapes and forms. And to be honest with you, you talk to jinn masters and whatnot, people who've seen them, and they say that they have many descriptions for jinns. Everything from little people with hoof feet to reptilian creatures. And there's all these entities that they say we used to actually be together. And actually, in Islam, they even say Lucifer was a jinn. That he was not an angel. He was a jinn. He was elevated by God because he was had such a great he was such a proud not proud, but he was a great fighter and a great warrior.
Mm-hmm.
He was so proud that he also fell. So in Islam, no angel can actually fall. Only jinns were the ones that fell. All the fallen angels that we call like Baal and Belial and Beelzebub and whatnot, Zazel, those are all jinns in Islam.
Are they
angels?
Are they made from supposedly plasma?
Well, physically speaking, we don't know because the idea is you talk about plasma, which is the fourth state of matter, so-called, right? It's it's basically a charged charged gaseous state, and it pervades the universe. And actually, plasma physics is very much contra modern relativity theories about dark matter and dark energy and whatnot, because that dark energy and dark matter have to explain this imbalance. We have we don't know where most of the density and most of the energy and physical form matter of the universe is held. So we just call it dark matter and dark energy to explain most of it as being invisible and whatnot. So plasma physics actually completely changes the whole game and says that the universe is pervaded by plasmas, and this is how light travels, and this is how sound travels, and all these various vibrations travel through space to the plasma fields, right? And that I don't know that these jinns and whatnot would be plasma, but I think that plasma then hides other dimensions of reality. And this goes back to the whole issue, which is we don't know how big we are. We don't.
Yeah,
that's true.
Yeah, we always talk about this on the show. We're like, who the hell are we?
Right.
We're a big mystery. Humans, just ourselves, but
we don't know. We don't have big. To us, we think in terms of proportions of what's known to us. So to us, the Earth is big. We're small. But what if the Earth is literally an atom within a cell of a much greater being?
Yeah.
Imagine that.
Microcosm, macrocosm kind of stuff.
Your proportion is completely gone. That's what we're talking about with plasma physics. It's like, well, what if you're looking at something physically, you just can't see into it? It's another dimension. There's another dimension or another density. You'd say another density of reality that's invisible to our eyes, but it exists, and it is carried through these plasma fields. So it's a very, it just really gets mind-bending, and I think quite fascinating. Mm-hmm. When you delve into these questions.
Yeah.
But I do think there are other dimensions, what are called densities, of existence. And also, it's lighter, for example. It can be a much lighter field of density. It might not, they don't have to take the same physical form that we do. Imagine that your mind is not physical. Your brain is physical, but your mind isn't. It's this current of energy that's running around, and it can go beyond your immediate body. But what if you don't need this heavy, I always say the human body is like a scuba diving suit. If you want to go into the water, you need a scuba suit to breathe and to operate, right? The human body is just the same, like a scuba suit for your mind to incarnate in this 3D reality. But if you were going to go into a different dimension, you wouldn't need such a heavy body, maybe. And that's where you get into this issue about angels. And that's what maybe jinns are. Body.
So I read in one of your interviews that you saw one of your friends being possessed. So I'm just curious, are there more people that are more prone to being possessed than others?
I think so. I've seen like 5, 6 people get possessed. But then again, that's just like, I know they were possessed. And then you think about how many people you've seen get possessed when they're drunk.
Yeah, or on drugs. Certain drugs. Crystal meth's a bad one, I think.
Mm-hmm. Even as alcohol. I mean, if you see your friend, someone you know, get really wasted, blackout wasted, they don't remember what they did. Well, that's no different than being possessed. I mean, literally, their behavior is uncontrollable. You try to communicate to them, they don't get it, they're not there, they can't remember. That's indication. Those are the same things that possessed people have. People aren't necessarily drunk. They're literally just outside, like they're not in control, and they can feel like they're fighting with something inside them that's trying to take over their functions, but they're not there.
Yeah, but my experience, I think that there are different levels of possession too, right? I mean, I've had an experience, and I think this person is he didn't do a lot of drugs and drinking and stuff and all that stuff, but there were just times where I can just feel his energy just like switch, and he wasn't intoxicated, and I felt like he wasn't always the steward of his own body. Like they say, like serial killers might have that, kind of deal where they're one person, almost like as if they have like a split personality.
Split personality? You're saying there's certain people like that?
Yeah. I mean, I haven't, I understand what you're saying about the drugs and getting, intoxicated and having this feeling that there's something inside you that you're fighting. But like I've had personal experiences too with like the paranormal and stuff. And my experience with, I knew somebody and I felt like they dabbled in the occult, and they were very, very, very psychic. But I think that this person may have picked up something, or he was sharing his body with something. So I wonder.
That's a certain kind of case. I mean, there's many people who are conduits for other realms. I mean, like you said, there's a whole slew of different factors. I mean, are there people that may not even be human that literally look? We assume people are human. We look around, we say they look human to me. They must be human. What the hell do we know? How is an alien? Maybe he doesn't even know he's an alien. Yeah. How do we know people think the same way we do? How do you know that people process the same way? How do you know people feel the same emotions? Right? I mean, you got to realize that unless you really start to delve into these metaphysical questions, you're only living at a surface level of reality. So, even in Islam, and Muslim friends of mine, talk about how, really what we think is life is just a dream. And when we wake up, when we die, we wake up, then we'll find out who was really real, who was really there, who was there in spirit, who was actually living a full life on Earth, and who's just, and who was just a shell, maybe like in the Matrix, like the lady in red. You think she's there, and you turn around, and it's an agent that's using her. So that gets me to talk about reptilians and how reptilians can possess people, and they even like incarnate because the bloodlines. I mean, this goes into the whole issue of bloodlines and how certain bloodlines are more malleable, maybe for them to influence or to possess or take over.
Okay.
There's the question again, like where do these bloodlines come from? Where do these races come from? It's not just pigment. I mean, you're just saying mutations of pigmentation cause different races to form, or maybe do we come from different star systems? Do we not come from different star systems? I oftentimes wonder about this. Yeah. And we feel kinship towards certain star systems over others. Right. But, that's the interesting thing is that, is Earth itself maybe not some kind of experimental ground for all these different entities who've come here over time? Because what is time? We don't know how old, I mean, we're talking about a galaxy that's hundreds of years old. We don't really know how old human life is in the context of the universe. We think just because humans popped up in the last few 1,000 years that there's no human life in the rest of the universe. How old is the universe?
Yeah. Yeah. Totally. Exactly.
Yeah, that's right. And that's where it gets so deep. I mean, we really don't even know. But when you're talking about possession, it sounds like there's just varying levels of possession of being possessed. Like you could be, like even ourselves for that minute that we get sort of space out for a second and you kind of pop back, like what just happened there, where you're just sort of losing it for a second. Or then there's the other level where you're blackout drunk and then the person becomes a completely different person. And then, and then I know what you're talking about, Virstyne, that person that you know. So then it just, who knows, like what is multiple personality? I mean, we know that the MK Ultra, they were sort of working to develop multiple personalities in people. So how much of it, possession, is like organic, that's just spirits possessing people, or is it artificial? Are they, is it being created by other entities? I mean, I don't, it gets
so many.
Yeah, there's so many layers
really,
to that part of possession, which sort of gets into like the question, about the elite. And we know we've seen like them practicing these rituals at Bohemian Grove and this really sort of bizarre stuff. Do you think that, or I know that there is, but can you explain to us a little bit about what their beliefs are, the elite, and their connections to sort of the spirit world or, the occult?
I mean, I can't speak on behalf of the elites or to say what all the elites believe. I think that if you know the history, though, you have to realize that it's real. I mean, just look at Babylon, look at Egypt. They practiced magic. A friend of mine practices, Egyptian magic. She's from Egypt. She claims her father was, illuminated, and he died. He was involved with arms trading with North Korea. But because there's a level above what you see on the blue screen every day. The level that we're given of reality is the Matrix level. Distracted by this, distracted by that. Conflict between Iran and America, conflict between North Korea and America, conflict between Russia and China, conflict. Those are the little games that they play, like pieces on a checkerboard. And then you go to the next level above it, and it's like the masterminds, the puppeteers, who think long term. Now, I always said if the conspiracy to really work, you have to go beyond 5-year plans. Go to 100-year plans, to generational plans, to the idea of shaping things over a course of a lifetime. And then many lifetimes, if you believe that, as I said, this magic and these psychic abilities are real, then you're involving yourself with spirits that are very old, that have an invested interest, or entities that are old, that have an invested interest upon the future of this planet, the future of the evolution of consciousness on this planet. Right? What's doing here? Because there's obviously, the elite talk about wiping out, 2/3 of the human population, right?
Right.
Down to 2 billion people or less. What is the motivation for that? Could it they're doing some kind of mass feeding for the entities that they work for? Could it be some kind of mass feeding of souls? A lot of Christians and others talk about with harvesting of souls. Every time a soul has died, it feeds into the negative, not negative, but like oftentimes these souls are harvested for good or for bad. For the good go to heaven, the bad to basically be harvested by something above us. So
it's like war, basically, right?
There's war on so many different levels, but it's been fed upon. We eat upon all these different animals, right?
Yeah.
Upon plants, and plants are eaten by animals. We eat the animals. Why do we assume nothing is eating us? Just because we don't see it, we feel it. When we feel like emotionally you're being eaten and swallowed up.
Sucked,
It's not on you.
Yeah.
But just see it, use them. And that's the thing. We have to stop using our eyes. I mean, Christ was very clear. It's not your eyes that see. He was referring to the third eye. He was referring to all these awareness. I mean, I love reading Christ's teachings and what he did because he talks about this. He talks about demon possession and casting them out. And how can you believe that Christ is a prophet and then you don't even listen to a thing he says and you deny it?
Yeah. People put more energy on his death than his life,
Why, he's here. That's why I don't believe that he's God incarnate. I believe he's a prophet. As an example for us to follow, that we can imitate Christ. But if you say he's God, I can't imitate God. So I think the big problem, you have to actually believe that Christ is here as a great teacher and someone for us to emulate. And that way we can actually try to achieve that level of awareness and consciousness that he had, to be able to fight those dominions, those powers, that St. Paul was talking about, the real rulers of our lives, their principalities, powers. He's referring to a demonic realm that rules us, not to something physical.
So, Sean, you're dabble into this kind of spirit world, and you're going to Greystone and all that. Was there anything kind of stressful about this experience? Did you feel that it was more positive than negative? I mean, anything about it that you kind of regret?
No, I mean, nothing I regret, but of course, it's a dark time. I mean, I remember especially the last 2 years from 2009 to 2011, into 2012, it's a time of darkness. You live in the night, because you're so immersed in the study of these entities and breaking in at night and going exploring, and it's just like, there was a lot of darkness around my life at that point. So it's nice to be beyond it and to have gotten the film done and out. But I don't regret anything, of course. No.
Well, that's good. Because I would think, you're getting calls from 666. I mean, I'd be like, maybe I shouldn't have gone there.
Yeah. Like, oh, snap. Like,
yeah.
Like, no way. No,
actually, I'm glad I went, because it opened me up. It woke me up to things.
So, I was going to say, it's probably, you probably feel very empowered now, right? Or more maybe empowered?
Empowered in the sense of my faith is stronger, my light is stronger. I feel more comfortable dealing with what, at the beginning I was fearful because I didn't understand it. It's just like anything, if you're trying to go hunting, if you're dealing with animals that you've never seen before, you're going to be afraid of them until you start to understand their patterns of behavior, what they can and cannot do, and, how they can hurt you, essentially, right?
Yeah.
So that's the feeling that you have when you first deal with the paranormal and supernatural, right, is the fears of, shoot, these guys can destroy me. Now, having gone through it, I feel strong. I don't fear what they can do. I know that I know that they can threaten. I know that they can maybe influence people to a certain extent. They can maybe try to influence or put a spell over my mind or make me think I'm in a bad place. But if I keep my faith in God and I keep my light strong internally, it all passes, waves in the ocean. Sometimes it goes your way, sometimes it goes against you. You have to know that there's a pattern. There's an ebb and flow to all things in life.
So would you say that's prayer is like the ultimate protection?
Yeah, prayer is protection, yeah.
Do you believe in like amulets and symbolism to symbols and trinkets also as forms of protection?
I mean, I don't know about amulets. I think that crystals have a certain power, frequency, that's supposed to be good, especially protection against shadows and whatnot. Mm-hmm. I believe, I wear the sword of Ali, who's, the Shia tradition. He's the true successor to Muhammad, the Prophet. And Ali, was a great warrior, and he is renowned to terrify jinns and any entities that can cause fear. So I wear the sword, and frankly, I do feel a great strength, from that, and also from the spirit of Ali. If you ask for Ali's protection, he's a tremendous warrior. Same way if you ask for Jesus, Jesus Christ to protect you.
Yeah.
Energy. So the point is, you have to know who to call upon. The spirit of Michael, the Archangel Michael, or whatnot. You call upon these energies, and they will come.
So yeah, that's what I was going to ask too. Would you say it's also maybe what makes the person feel most protected? Like you're bonded to Ali, you feel bonded to Ali, so you feel like that. So maybe somebody that maybe doesn't feel bonded to Ali, but they feel more bonded to Christ, a cross would be more protective to them.
Yeah, I don't know the cross is necessarily the best thing to give anybody, just because the cross is a symbol of it's pre-Christian. Don't forget. I mean, I always kind of shake my head because it's like saying Amen, Amen is Amen Ra. It's a sun god in Egyptian tradition. That's what Amen is.
Right.
To say it is to invoke something you're not even aware of. To wear the cross is to invoke, again, something Egyptian. It has to do with evolution through time of, it's a symbol of time, actually. So the crucible of time is the cross. So to sacrifice the Son of God on the cross, this is pre-Christian mythology. To wear the cross is not really to show a great respect for Christ. I think it's just a lack of knowledge of what you're actually doing.
Yeah.
The cross truly, it's like a symbol of suffering. It's a symbol of Saturn, and how time grinds things down than of rising. So I think, call upon Christ, but the cross as a symbol itself is, not necessarily the strongest, most potent symbol.
How about the Star of David, or the Ankh?
The Star of David is Saturn as well, because again, that's pre-Jewish.
Okay.
Go back to the old Sumerian etchings, and when they wanted to depict Saturn, they would do the six-sided star, because if you actually know, Saturn has a hexagon on its roof of the planet itself. There's a formation, I call it a cloud formation that's formed, that's a hexagonal form. It's very interesting how this is developed, and people are still speculating as to how that formation occurs on the roof of Saturn. But so really, in truth, the hexagon is a sign of Saturn, the planet. And so if you look into some of the mythology about it, I mean, really the Saturnian Brotherhood is so-called the Black Brotherhood that's been ruling this age, because right now we're living through a certain ion that's supposed to come to an end around this time, around 2012, 2013. In the next 100 years, we're shifting to the age of Aquarius, right? It just has where what's the background? We were in the age of Pisces, and Christ was a symbol of the Pisces, of the fish, and now the age of Aquarius is the water bearer, and so this is where we're supposed to basically go from being a fish in a school to now starting to flow more with the water, which is consciousness itself. And so our limitations are like they say, our limitations are less as we enter this new age. And there'll be new symbols and new signs that will erupt, I guarantee you. It won't happen overnight, because you're talking about an age that will last a couple thousand years. Yeah. But overall, there will be evolution of mankind in many regards, including mental, and how we, I think, open our third eye and our ability to connect to each other telepathically, to become more cosmic humans. Because, don't forget, we have a cosmic impetus as human beings. We're here on a rock in space. We don't know how we got here. Why should we feel like we're bounded here? Why do we feel like we're only earthlings? We're not earthlings. If you choose to be an earthling, why can't we look to the stars and try to mingle with the solar system and become much more integrated in that regard? Why don't we try to expand beyond our planet and understand how the solar system works, and how again, plasma physics is how plasma physics work, how we can evolve new forms of power, beyond nuclear fission. And first of all, nuclear fusion will be tremendous, but then to use those resources towards expansion into space, towards colonizing us, as opposed to feeling like we're limited here.
Yeah. And when you were talking earlier about frequencies, I have this friend, and she talks to me a lot about frequencies, and the natural movement of frequencies is so rapid that we can't possibly replicate it. And she's big on that. Our technology, these cell phones, the Wi-Fi's, and these things are sort of disrupting our natural frequencies. Do you think that that's like part of sort of the elite's sort of way to keep us from finding evolving and finding that place, that true power?
Yeah, I mean, if you listen even to the music, there's a reason why the Illuminati are so interested by the music industry.
Oh, yeah, definitely.
John Todd came out talking about this in the 1970s, and I think he was right, talking about the Druidic formations of these Druidic priests who would influence the various industries in the different regions of the United States, and how, you've seen over time how, people would say that music is degenerated, frankly, and you can hear it, audibly you can hear how it's degenerated to the point of, especially like in hip-hop, for example, it's like come down to simple downbeats, and there's even the dialogue, the lyrics are illiterate, frankly.
Yeah.
So there's literacy problem if you compare a classical composition to a modern rock or rap song. There's very little to compare.
Yeah,
the
definitely.
Composition did elevate your mind and did allow you to understand things, because there's a connection between music, harmonics, mathematics,
emotion, energy,
Emotion, energy, exactly, and it all links up. And so even, but aside from just those variations that they're creating around rap and rock and the mainstream music that you're hearing, you're also creating music for the most part that's designed for clubs, which are themselves almost like Dionysian rituals.
Oh, totally,
Yeah.
Totally, I totally agree with that.
I can,
Festivals of getting your energy into the right sexual mode, basically releasing energy in that very base level.
So yeah, to like your lower chakras, right?
Exactly, all your lower chakras, not raising your energy to actually like the way it's supposed to go, which is you need sexuality, you need your base chakras, but you're supposed to flow up and down your spine to your crown, which is in your head, which then connects you to higher dimensions of understanding, of consciousness, and awareness. So it flows up and down your spine. But they like to limit it because for control purposes, it's much easier when people are in a state of only satisfying their lowest chakras, which are sexual and base appetites and crass emotions, which is really sensation. We call it, it's an emotion to get, to feel angry, to feel outraged, to feel shocked, to feel mad, to feel happy. I mean, those are instantaneous feelings, not an actual emotion, which actually has almost like a classical composition, which has a certain evolution and understanding of what's created this emotion. You see, in classical music there's a movement, right? Yeah. And it's like each movement carries you in the context of a larger symphony. So you understand that there's a cause and consequence. That the music comes back to a point. It evolves and it comes back to a point that it hit before. But based on the evolution, now you understand something more than you did the previous time. So this is the language of art in general. You have to communicate to people on not just a multidimensional level, but in the context of karma, of cause and consequence. So they understand, they've learned something. So at the beginning, your initial outrage or your initial shock was blurred by your lack of understanding. But given more understanding as you go along, you're then able to have new insights as to why you had the initial reaction. And that's what tragedy is all about. You see, like tragedy and comedy, the basic formulations of all art in the Western world is tragedy and comedy, right? Tragedy is a situation where the hero or the main character had the opportunity to make the right decision, but was colored or blurred by their wrong sensations, wrong emotions, wrong feelings, right? And ultimately that mistake leads to their undoing or that of their society at large, right? And the comedy is where the hero is able to essentially overcome those flaws of maybe initial feeling or initial reaction to something to then laugh in the face of danger or destruction or despair. And that laugh itself is what allows us to conquer and overcome, because we realize that we're fundamentally fallible, we're fundamentally human. Can we overcome that? Can we put our pride or ego aside so we can laugh about it? Or are we going to hold on to our pride and ego to the destruction to the very end of our being or of our society?
Wow. It's very, very intriguing and very complicated subject, yeah. I want to shift gears a little bit. I want to talk about conspiracy theory. And my first question is, what took so damn long?
For the release? I have no idea.
Yeah.
I have no idea, because that's ultimately the call of the producers on the True TV side. They had issues with the show. They kept changing cuts. I understand they kept recutting the episodes until they were happy with it. So, frankly, I've never seen the episodes. I'm very curious to see how they translate what we did.
What topics do you cover in the show?
We cover, not thoroughly, but we cover time travel.
Oh, wow.
Reptilians.
Oh,
ranch.
Did you say Skywalker Ranch?
Skinwalker.
Skinwalker, okay.
The Death Ray.
Death Ray.
What else? I'm blanking. There's 3 more episodes. Oh, Manimals. The crossbreeding of human beings.
Yeah.
Jeez, yeah.
Animals. And a couple others. All interesting topics.
How did they? It's funny because I watched that show and I enjoy watching it when I've seen it in previous seasons, which is why we were kind of going, what's taking so long? I kept going.
April turned me on to it. I didn't really.
Yeah, you're like, oh. But I would often go, how do they get away with putting this on? Because they're really exposing so many things that are, the media is owned, and so by the elite.
Well, remember, don't forget that the shows that they covered so far have never been explosive insofar as the topics were concerned. They would have explosive elements within the shows.
Right.
They did have, like in 9/11, the Kennedy one, they had the confession of E. Howard Hunt, as being party to the Kennedy assassination.
Right.
Not explosive. The media never picked up on it. No one ever wanted to talk about it. But there were things within it. But the Kennedy assassination itself, obviously, is a subject that's been covered in many forms through many years. The 9/11 attacks on the World Trade Center, been talked about with many people. So these are not entirely unknown. The one episode that was canceled by True TV after the fact, where they refused to rerun it, was the martial law episode.
Yeah.
Jones went to
uncover
the FEMA camps and these boxes that could be considered maybe mass graves or something or other. We don't know what it was. So that was the episode that actually True TV then pulled after airing it, and it's only now on YouTube. But I don't know if they made a mistake or not, but ultimately it did get out. And then we were going to do one episode this year on TSA.
Oh, yes.
It's just a money-making thing. I mean, that's why the company that sells these stupid full body scanners that
cancer machines, yeah.
Cancer machines, yeah.
They're making a huge profit, obviously, by the government forcing every airport now to use these machines instead of normal X-rays, which work just fine. Yeah. And so, it's just the corruption, and then obviously they want to expand those TSA machines to highways and stadiums, and just basically make it a part of our life to be constantly under scrutiny of security guards. And by the way, I think that's the only job creation program in this country, basically, for Obama, is private security and TSA security and things like this.
Yeah.
Really, yeah.
That's
the worst job ever, though. I would never want that job. I mean, you have to feel people. I mean, you'd have to have a certain mindset to want a job like that. Seriously.
Definitely.
Well, I mean, you got to want to work. I mean,
or just be desperate.
That's when we start living off the grid. That's for me. I'll never do that. That's when I get a tent and some wood and I'm off.
Yeah, but at the end of the day, don't forget, you're talking about 25+ million Americans, able-bodied Americans, unable to work at this point in time.
Yeah.
That's a huge amount of population. And so, a job for TSA is better than nothing.
Yeah, it's true. But some of them seem to really, they overstep their bounds. Yeah, so I wonder, when I was in college, my psychology teacher said that they had done this experiment where they had the students participate, and some of them were prisoners and some of them were guards. And by the end,
there was the
Stanford prison.
Yeah, Stanford.
Yeah, and then and at first they were kind of playing with each other, and then by the end, the guards become actually prison guards and sort of start abusive of their power. Yeah, and so that could also happen if you're working at the TSA. First, you're just getting a job, thinking, I got to pay the bills, and then next thing you know, taking advantage of a situation, filling a woman's breast because she's attractive, or it's just gross.
Well, yeah. Don't forget, what we're dealing with is the creation of a concentration camp within the United States proper.
Yeah.
And it began with the prison systems, because really, don't forget, we have at any moment, I think, at least 3 million people incarcerated in the United States.
Right.
It's a huge amount of people, and this has been going on. It's been steadily growing since the 70s, right? Especially since the war on drugs.
Yeah.
Because I think at least half, if not more, are prisoners of drug-related crimes, and I think most of them are never hurt anyone else aside from themselves, or at least assaults-wise. But once you have that concept, once you have that building of America into a building of these prisons, right, which then obviously flowed back and forth into the inner city ghettos. A lot of these guys talking about drug-related crimes, especially from the 80s to now, oftentimes black, now, oftentimes Mexican or Latinos, but essentially mostly minorities, right? They're flowing in and out of the prison system, so don't forget the blood and crib gangs were oftentimes formulated and reinforced within the prison structure. And so even though people would not want to necessarily be in a gang forever, in order to survive in the prison, they'd have to affiliate with some kind of gang organization, right, for protection purposes. They then leave the prison, and now you limited your ability to get the job because having a conviction on your record doesn't exactly look good. So you're not going to, for the most part, not going to get a real solid job after that, and you're more likely now to continue some kind of illicit behavior because you're not affiliated with gangs. Mm-hmm. So this is what really has cropped up throughout America. Then you have now the growth of the private prison industry, right? The most now run for profit. So actually, if you're running prisons for profit, what is the motivation is to have more prisoners than not.
Yeah.
There's actually a little article I read from a guy, an anonymous source, who came out and posted something, posted this blog, and he said he was at a meeting in the early 90s when he was representing one of the record labels. And he was, I don't think he was the head of it. I think he was one of the, like almost like a manager or vice president, something to this effect within the record label. He was at a private meeting in Los Angeles area that involved a bunch of other record execs. And basically the guy that came, there was some speakers that came forward saying, look, we're investing, the record labels, secretly we're investing some of your monies into the private prison system. And as a result, we want to make sure that the lyrics are being put out are as degrading, as negative, as basically as promotional of violence and gang warfare as possible. Okay. Of course, they had NDA before going into the meeting because it was all, it was closed. It was a closed meeting, and that's why he won't reveal his identity because he signed the NDA. This was a real meeting, and after that, he slowly withdrew from the industry because he realized it was that level of corruption and that was that disgusting in terms of the profiteering going on. But it makes sense if you think about transition and how these hip hop groups that were, obviously promoting violence and abuse of women and gangster style lifestyles were being promoted by the mainstream record labels. That people want that. I don't know what the heck they were. People were listening to 10 years earlier. they were content with that kind of. So you can't tell me it's just people wanted to hear gangster music. Obviously, gangster music was being promoted, and it was creating that attitude of gangsterism. That it's cool to be a gangster, to be a thug, to kill people, right? And then obviously in the 2000s, you got much more of the bling culture, which Jay-Z and company and whatnot are components of, which is look what I got. Make money, how you do it. You got to get your rocks, your diamonds, your
See it in my students all the time. It's really disheartening and frustrating.
So that's they're being shown, being led to emulate.
Yeah.
And culture is picking up in the United States, you see, because whether it's the prison system or the idea that going through TSA, you are treated like a prisoner. You have your hands in the air, walking through these security scanners as though you're already guilty. That's what it is to have your hands
up. Yeah.
Basically, you're a guilty man. So they're getting you ready psychologically for that moment when they're going to say, okay, now we're going to come clean out the garbage. Now we need to get rid of, this, who knows, some segment of the population might be picked up and put in some kind of concentration camp. They'll say, well, it's for their own, it's for their own well-being. We have to get people to work. I mean, who knows? There's so many ways of doing it. But the point is not there, and it's also there because Obama has institutionalized it with National Defense Authorization Act.
Yeah.
It's good. Yeah, it's
Maybe it's corpus. Forget the Constitution. I have the right as the dictator-in-chief, right? Same way that he has the right to seize through one of his executive orders to seize all property of people, not in the state of war, just in the time that he decrees. It's an emergency.
Just as he wants to. Yeah, it's really creepy. Huh?
It's fascist. It's just, it's no different than that. It's just they're preparing it. It's no different than the Reichstag fire decree. I mean, it's just they're just saying, well,
Yeah, exactly. It's the enabling act for this country, and it destroys our Constitution because people say, well, he's not doing it. It's not the point. He doesn't have the right to do it.
Yeah.
He doesn't put it on paper.
Yeah.
He does not have that right. And so when people sit here and they go, well, I like the guy. He's so cuddly. I like to have a drink with him. I'm like, that's like, Hitler's a cute guy. Maybe I wouldn't mind going on a date with him.
You can play cornhole in the park and golf or something, what the hell?
Oh my goodness.
Yeah, it doesn't mean he's not a bad guy.
Yeah. Well, that's the worst type of person too. That passive-aggressive, just kind of underhanded attitude. You catch more flies with honey, because nobody's going to go up to the guy that's throwing people in jail all the time. The best way to catch people is to be nice and charming and handsome. Handsome is a huge factor.
Yeah.
You got to get more people to follow you that way. The basis of a cult leader.
That's exactly what he is. A cult leader.
Yeah.
He's a cult leader. He has the pitch of the tone of voice of a hypnotist. I was even told recently that he did study hypnosis in Hawaii. I think it was in Hawaii or whatnot. But aside from that, you can tell from the tone of his voice that he knows hypnosis. And it's all a lullaby. I mean, he sits there and he talks to the camera, and people say, well, culturally, I think he's a nice guy and he's what we need. And what about him assassinating American citizens in November 2011 when he killed Alawi and his kids, who were...
But his dogs are
citizens.
Yeah,
I can't believe Obama. I can't believe Obama would kill American citizens. I can't believe it. Well, he did. No, but I can't believe it. It's just I can't believe it. Yeah. That's exactly the kind of thing. It's like in Nazi Germany, there's concentration camps on the street. Well, I can't believe that.
Yeah.
Hitler's supposed to
do. What can you tell people? Like, there's a fact. Well, I can't believe the fact. It's like I prefer to believe the lie.
Yeah.
And so we stop wanting to believe lies. And so we stop being happy to be lied to. Because that's what the culture is. Fundamentally, it's a reality TV culture. The reality TV is not real. Why do you call it reality TV? It's scripted. These people are playing characters. They just have their own name in front of it. But it's not real. So don't call it reality TV. But as long as you call it reality TV, you like being lied to. You like the illusion that, hey, maybe that's what their life is really like. And you know what? Their life is so exciting because they get to go and have this drama on camera every day, and I want to have a life just like that. That goes back to our issue. That's not art. That's not emotion. You're not learning anything from this. You're just having a sensation of excitement, a sensation of fear, a sensation of disgust, whatever it may be. It's a sensation. It's not an actual emotion.
Yeah, and I'd say that goes for the news too, because or the mainstream news anyway, because they do the same thing. They come on and they say, "Hi, how you doing? Hope you're having a good day," and then they go on and tell you why it's a miserable day.
I know, it's so depressing.
And then they depress you and they desensitize you, and people get to it's
all over too the world. In Taiwan it was same thing. It's just. Yeah.
Makes you wonder when did the news become the bad news, right? There's no good news, it's just the bad news. They don't say it's the bad news, they just say it's the news. Why is all news bad?
Or just pointless too. It's very they talk about stuff that's really not that relevant.
They jump on a story and then just milk it when there's so many stories and so many things going on, and we rarely hear about anything that's going on, in the Middle East, the wars and these pending wars and everything. Nobody knows about that we had a brief war with Yemen. I tell that to people and they go, "What?"
I know.
I go, "Yeah."
They're like, "No, I can't believe it."
That's right. The culture just believe it. It's the same way that we've been living with a fear of terrorism for the last 11 years, right?
Yeah.
We lost maybe 3,000 people in the Twin Towers attacks, which really were not done by any foreign entity except for maybe the British intelligence working with Saudis and Americans. But the point is that, and again, this is intelligence. This is not American people. This is not the American government at large. It's a conspiracy. The point is, even if you say the war on terror, okay, we killed a few thousand innocent people. Then you say we killed probably 1 million people as a cause of our wars now in the post 9/11 years.
Yeah.
Can you compare 3,000 people with 1 million?
Yeah.
I mean, not to compare qualitatively, just the quantity.
Yeah.
And you say we're scared of terrorists still.
Yeah, well, even before that, though, people were scared. There was the Cuban Missile Crisis, and there was what else are we scared of? It's just constant stuff. People I know during my parents' era, they were scared. Oh, we're going to be bombed any moment from Cuba. They'd have the duck and cover stuff. Well,
now
and now that's it's a new thing now. It's the terrorists from the Middle East are going to come and blow us to kingdom come, or
That's exactly it. The point is that they will use that fear as long as they can. In the Iran thing, I don't believe there'll be a war anytime soon for two reasons. One, despite what Obama may want, because I think Obama does want the war, because he's essentially an agent of the British Empire, and right now the empire as a whole, not just the British, but the idea of the monetary empire of the West, from Europe to America, is really collapsing. You know, it's on a course of collapse. It's not necessarily going to happen next week, next month, but it's not in a healthy state of growth.
Yeah.
And it will not be that way. According to these policies that we now have, according to the overall strategies that we're deploying, of bailouts and inflationary, QE eternities, there will be no growth for this country. So in order to distract people, you need wars, because then an organizing situation. It's like there's an old phrase, war is the organizing principle of any empire.
Yeah.
And that's where we're at now. We're at that point where we need the war with Iran, even though it may be a Cold War. It will be a new Cold War where it's like Russia. We isolate them. We then, step by step, destroy them and see how long we can carry this threat on, while meanwhile having a hot war in Syria, or as you said, or in Libya, or these other countries that are hot wars. They're proxies in a sense. But then this is not the same situation. I mean, it's not like the Iranians are financing all these different countries.
Yeah.
But it is ultimately, it's a hot war that really has more to do with resources and having to do with the idea of dependency. Because remember, when people are dependent upon you, when you're facilitating them with arms, for example, for control, they become dependent upon you.
Yeah.
These wars have to do with. It's like it has more to do with financing the various chiefs, tribal organizations, and whatever they may be able to offer. Maybe it has to do with influence in the Sudan, for example. It has to do with oil. It has to do with various raw materials and resources, right? So, again, you're into a state of near chaos in that region, and it's being fomented and encouraged. But yet, even to the point where they can't lie to us on TV anymore, except to say, well, the rebels are different from Al Qaeda. Like, we're supporting the good rebels, not the Al Qaeda rebels, like Canada or something. I mean, it's like, you really, it's gotten so crazy that they know they can't even hide the fact that we're arming Al Qaeda guys, so-called Al Qaeda elements. We can't even hide it anymore.
I just want to ask another question really fast, since we're on the subject of Cold War and Iran. What do you think about the movie Argo? Do you think it's some kind of maybe psyop to kind of demonize Iran?
I mean, look, I think it's a well-made film. I enjoyed it as a movie. I just think horrible times to be releasing it.
Yeah.
And fundamentally, it's propagandistic. I mean, come on, the CIA are the good guys. They get the job done. They save the Americans from the evil Iranians. And sure as heck, don't make me want to go back to Tehran when you watch a movie like that.
Yeah.
But and obviously they now at the end of the film they even admit that it's mostly a Canadian operation that the CIA was helping with. But in the film itself, I don't think give nearly enough credit to Canadians or their Secret Service.
Yeah. This has been a great conversation.
Yeah, I know.
To go on, you're just a wealth of knowledge, but we are out of time here. But before we go, I want to once again, when is Conspiracy Theory coming out exactly?
Conspiracy Theory is November 7th. I believe the first show airs.
Okay. It's going to be on True TV.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
And where can we find Greystone?
Yes.
Greystone is on DVD. It's available on DVD now. It's on demand. On iTunes, you can download it. YouTube.
Yeah, I watched it on YouTube, so I know to find it. And we are very grateful for you to come on and be on our Halloween episode and talk about your scary movie and everything else that we've talked about. So thank you so much, Sean.
Absolutely. Thank you guys for having me.
All right. Well, we look forward to having you again. We're going to take a short break, and when we get back, Virstyne and I will close out the show. So stay tuned. Thanks for listening to Truth or Talk. We'll be right back.
There, boy, we'll show these fascists what a couple of hillbillies can do. Well, I'm going to tell you, fascists, you may be surprised. People in this world are getting organized. They're bound to lose. You fascists bound to lose. All you fascists bound to lose. I said, all you fascists bound to lose. Yes, sir. All you fascists bound to lose. marching across the field where a million fascists died. You're bound to lose. You fascists bound to lose. Oh, you fascists bound to lose. Yes, oh, you fascists bound to lose. Oh, you fascists bound to lose. You're bound to lose. You fascists bound to lose. I said, oh, you fascists bound to lose.
Wow, that was a blast. It was very cool conversation. I didn't want to stop.
It was good. Hi, welcome back to Truth or Talk.
Oh, I know, we're just going on.
Yeah,
we're back. We're back.
We're back. No, that was a great conversation. I know I did want it to continue. I was hoping, well, I mean, I guess he answered all of our questions very well and concisely, but he's just a...
And then some.
And then some. He's just a wealth of information.
Yeah.
He's so smart.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm just like...
If he doesn't know about something, he won't talk about it. He'll be honest. He'll be like, well, I don't know about that. But he knows about a lot of stuff, so...
I think he does know. I mean, he knows a lot about things that he says that he's not an expert on, so he won't talk about it. But he probably knows. He just a little bit. He just isn't. He's not necessarily an expert. But yeah, he's really, really interesting. That was a really fun interview, and I was glad that I was able to join you guys because I missed the last one that he was on the show. And it was lively. It was good, and I'm looking forward to conspiracy theory. Can't wait.
I know.
It's been dangling the carrot the whole, months and months and months.
I know. It's taken forever.
Really has.
I can't wait to see what they're going to talk about. The topics he said are really interesting. I want to know more about time travel.
I know. I'm like, what are
that's the type. Yeah.
That sounds crazy. I remember in college, my astronomy professor said that they actually have the plan. He actually showed us a copy of the blueprint to create wormholes, which wormholes can travel through.
Oh wow!
Make you have you travel through dimensions in space and time.
Well, there's supposedly at least I would say there's a map of 10, right? Because they think that people think that maybe the Bermuda Triangle is one. So is the Dragon's Triangle. By Dragon's Triangle is by Japan. There's another Bermuda Triangle-esque type, I don't know, wormhole or whatever, portal around there. There's one by Australia. And then I knew about those three, but then I was researching a little bit. There's about at least 7 more in addition to those that people have, documented. So I don't know. And then if you go into Project Camelot, I think Aaron McCullum talks a little bit about that.
Yeah.
And they have a couple other guests that talk about stuff like that. Something I would like to know. It's very, there's so much that we don't know that, I'm never bored now. It's just great.
Yeah, that's true. Oh, yeah.
I'm always up to learning something new and opening my mind and expanding my mind and becoming more empowered.
Yeah.
It's going to be really exciting.
Yeah, it is exciting, and that's one of the things that's so fun about with talking to Sean is that he goes into all these different things about frequencies and plasma and space and time and energy, and then you kind of you realize we really don't even know what's going on. We actually really don't. We're so clueless, and in a way, I mean we just sort of accept that we are here and that this is our body and that this is our earth, but we really don't even know, We could be just a science experiment in a bowl, for all we know.
Yeah, but you know what? When we talked to Fritz Springmeier, he put it really, I love the way he phrased it. He was just talking about how whoever, created us or whoever is quote unquote running things, I'm paraphrasing, I don't know if these aren't his exact words, but he said something to the effect that they've created this paradigm that we're in now, so they can operate outside the real paradigm, I guess. So we're kind of stuck in this paradigm of how we think things are, or how we think things are supposed to be. But yet, so then, if they, they know about the occult, they know about reptilians and stuff. To us, it would seem ridiculous. Or people would say, oh, I can't believe it. or they don't want to believe, or they're not open to it because they're just so used and just stuck in this paradigm, this way of thinking, that anything outside of that is just very, it's just nonsense to them, you know.
Yeah, it's interesting that he was talking about something about the genetically engineered human beings, like humans with animals and stuff like that. We already know they're making spider goats, you know, and that kind of weird.
They are.
They've already made spider goats. I mean, they're just making the weirdest, you know, stuff. And so, I mean, why wouldn't they just splice humans if they're making spider goats, you know?
Oh, sure. So they've got a lot of things. Well, people,
right.
But then it makes you wonder about, you hear people say, oh, I was in the forest and I saw Bigfoot and stuff, or I saw this.
Right.
And
it's macabre.
Been that, you know, to the
right.
you know, stuff like that. It could have been something like that, you know.
Sure.
But then, you know, they're made to seem loony, or they put those stories in the National Enquirer, and, you know, and then they just write those people off as just trying to make a buck or wanting to get attention. When
right.
Actually, they really could have seen something, you know, like the Loch Ness Monster, and, you know, there have been many accounts of people have claimed that they've seen something, and, you know, it's just...
Right. Well, my husband likes the show that's on History Channel. When we used to get cable, he used to watch the Ancient Aliens. And one of the episodes, they get into, there's actual historic evidence that they've been genetically engineering humans and animals for centuries. So, I mean, there's pictures of, you know, depictions on rocks and, you know, statues and these types of things throughout history of these sort of like hybrid animals. And so you have to wonder, you know, when they're talking, I mean, why it's, you know, when you're saying like Loch Ness Monster or these kinds of things, I mean, why wouldn't we think that something like that is, not only is it happening, because if they can genetically engineer, you know, a spider goat or a tomato with a salmon or whatever else they're doing, and we know that those things are happening. I mean, it's just
and that's been mainstream. Yeah,
that's been mainstreamed. So I mean, we know that they made a human, and or they cloned a sheep.
That they broke down the human genome code. That, you know, have you seen the spider goats? They look like goats. They look like goats, but their milk has like this fiber or something you can spin, and it makes this like really hard to destroy like armor. If you can spin their milk into thread. It's weird. Ugh. Like the spider, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, that's what, isn't that, you know, in the comic book world, isn't that what Captain America was? He was like a genetically engineered super soldier? Like
yeah, I have to ask Jim and Demi, and I don't know. They're like...
Okay, yeah, I don't remember.
I
haven't seen the movie, and I don't remember, but I think that's what his character was. He was just a kind of a puny, scrawny little soldier, but he was a patriot. He was, you know, they thought he had a good heart, and so they just sort of used him. They were experimenting to make a super soldier, and they genetically engineered him to just be awesome and, you know, live forever and all kinds of.
Yeah.
So, you know, I mean, sure, yeah, they want to make super soldiers. Why wouldn't they?
There's this guy named Duncan O'Finnigan, who was in like the MK Ultra project, and he talks about that they did do that. They did that to him. Yeah, and it's just like, oh man, it's also just very heartbreaking that these people, you know, that they've done these to these people. They've kind of just put them in this life, and it's been very like stressful. I think stressful is an understatement. I don't even know words to describe like what it must be like to be just totally like fucked with, and on every level, like physically and mentally and emotionally, and just not being able, you know, it's probably hard for people like that to have relationships, friendships, you know, to just function in this society that we live in. It just must be really, it's terrible. Like, it is heartbreaking. Angry, and it breaks my heart, and you know, and maybe, you know, some of those people end up being okay, and maybe it's not that I feel sorry for them, but it just seems very, I don't know, unfair.
Yeah.
Or
they could have had a different life.
Yeah, you know,
especially
if they've been taking these people since they were children and doing this. Right. Have you listened to the Arizona Wilder stuff?
I don't think so.
I have to send that to you. It's very, very compelling.
She was one of the ones that was used for MK Ultra. Right?
Yeah, like Kathy O'Brien. And
right. Well, that's a whole nother truth to talk to.
Yeah. I mean, it's a whole nother.
I'd love to get one of these people on to talk about their experience, but you know, that's a lot of times these people are hard to to contact.
They have to relocate too, because when they come out, they're constantly being followed and messed with.
Right, exactly. So it can be difficult. But yeah, we are out of time, and we want to go ahead and end this wonderfully exciting, scary Halloween show. And everybody be safe out there. Don't eat too much candy. Have a happy Halloween, and get scared, but in a good way, I guess.
Eat some apples. Eat pencils. Don't give away candy.
Pencils. You'd be like the lame house. The kids will be all pencils.
Hey, that's what I give kids.
I don't give kids. Don't send your kids out. We had Dr. Rima on, and she said, do not send your kids out to collect money for UNICEF. We don't want you to do that, because they are an evil UN-run organization, part of the New World Order.
Hey,
so
mechanical pencils. You can give them mechanical, like cool lead pencils. Come on.
Give them lead pencils?
So cute. Like the graphite pencils. I'm sorry.
Yeah, they don't use lead anymore.
Sorry.
Give the little kids some lead. Let them eat them.
No. Like the cool mechanical graphite pencils.
All right. Well, yeah. I mean, you can give away
erasers, stickers. Kids love stickers.
Give away like juice too. I mean, it's not it doesn't always have to be junk food, but juice. And I've seen like little juice boxes or. Mini, but they won't eat the apples, though. A lot of parents and stuff.
Yeah, there was that crazy dude a few years ago. Remember that dude that said, rain blades in the apples?
Yeah, so one weirdo, ruined it for everybody. So you can't give away apples, or fruit, because then people won't eat it. But you can try to,
That's my best pick, because kids, if it's cool stationery, kids love that stuff.
And you can give away raisins and stickers. And so, anyway, but, that's what we want to say, is have a safe and happy Halloween, and watch something scary. I'm going to watch The Shining, because we talked about it. No, I don't know. I don't know what I'm going to do. But anyway, so thanks for listening. Find us at truthertease.com, our store at shop.truthertease.com. Conspiracy Realist T-shirt, Lame Chef, official stories. So until next time, peace, truth, and love.
Peace, truth, and love, guys. Bye-bye.
The main building, also known as the Kirkbride Building, was completed in 1876. Until 1943, when the Pentagon was completed, this was the largest structure in the United States under one roof.
What, you never wanted to go to a haunted house before?
I think I've been in one.
Really? Haunted? You ever seen a shadow, like a shadow man? You ever been attacked by a shadow?
It could have been just a shadow.
Man's body pulling my leg out of the bed.
That sounds like John was getting a little kinky. You don't believe in ghosts? Only one way to find out.
No, we shouldn't be here. We're disturbing the dead.
There's something moving. I don't know what the hell that is, though.
Are we living within an Illuminati ritual? Find out on Buzzsaw.
Central Intelligence Agency. It was described by witnesses as...
Fritz Springmeier is our guest. He's the author of Bloodlines of the Illuminati, wherein he has traced some of the dynastic families that are really the rulers behind the scenes. And also, he has been not necessarily first-hand witness, but certainly through many, and he knows through many first-hand witnesses that there are blood sacrifices and human sacrifice that take place within these Illuminati rituals. So it makes us have to wonder, what exactly are they doing and why? Fritz, I wanted to ask you, in the first episode, you talked about some of the blood sacrifices that have been documented, human sacrifice and whatnot. And, all this recalls ancient demonology, right? Some kind of soul deals, contracts that take place with demons. And is that really what's going on here? I mean, are these rituals, do you think, to invoke demonic entities to try to consolidate these people's power?
Sure. When you speak about the term magic, there are many different forms of magic. Theurgy, which is Satanism, will involve blood sacrifices. There are reasons why they do blood sacrifices. Human sacrifices and blood sacrifices have been done worldwide for many thousands of years. So this is nothing new. When it comes to having power over people and the world, those people in power will do anything to project their power. And the same goes for the term magic. If you were to define what magic was, if I ask you, would you go make me a peanut butter jelly sandwich, and you did, that is considered magic. In other words, I have projected my will and had you do my will. Now, there's different kinds of magic, and some of that magic, like you were talking about, involves invoking spirits, invoking spiritual powers, and so yes, that's one of the aspects of the rituals.
You mentioned some of the people that you've dealt with who are formerly mind control slaves of the Illuminati, or basically have been involved in the Illuminati. In your experience with them, did you notice or feel that they were possessed by demonic entities, or that in some way did you feel a certain spirit that's non-human that was interacting through these people or with these people?
Oh, there's no doubt about it. The Illuminati have hoarded the Big Daddy demons to themselves, and they know how to invoke them and how to work with them. Those aren't something that the common everyday person deals with.
Well, we may not even be aware of it, to be honest. I mean, I agree with you. You would know when you're dealing with someone who's, let's say, overtly possessed, but it feels as though, many things happen on the psychic level that we don't necessarily understand. We don't know what's going through the minds of a human being. There's up to 10% of the population are sociopaths, right? We don't understand quite how their minds function. We look at another human being and oftentimes project our own psyche into them, or empathize with them, but we don't really know what forces could be working in their brains. And I think that's what's so interesting about the mind control aspect of the Illuminati. Would you say that the Illuminati are really behind, for example, the MK Ultra project, as it ended up becoming called? What was that ultimately? Describe a little bit of what that was about and what they were trying to do.
Well, MK Ultra started in the early 50s. It's a series of projects and sub-projects that the CIA did. And then where my research helps us get the bigger picture is if you go in and start looking at who was running the CIA, who was running their mind control, you'll see it was the Illuminati. Same way with MI6. MI6 has always had a reputation of being a blue blood elite organization, and the same way with the OSS that was the forerunner of the CIA. So, the duelist, John Foster Dulles, was married into the Rockefeller family, so you start looking at who's running things. And then, yes, a lot of these Illuminati people that were under Illuminati, what I call Illuminati trauma-based mind control, actually had their programming done by the government under the MK Ultra projects. Now, the CIA they covered their tracks by just saying, well, we were doing research. No, they were creating operational mind-controlled slaves. They were actually creating agents. It wasn't just experiments.
Well, I think the terminology for MK Ultra, I always hypothesized it has to do with the mind control, which is the MK from the German Nazis were working on mind control, right? Obviously, in a lot of the death camps, the work camps, they were doing experiments, trying to understand how the human mind worked, right? And also how to create propaganda, how to control the human mind. So you had the MK side of it, and you had the Ultra side, which was what they